This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. I wanted to cover this story. I'm sure over the years you guys have heard about how our government allows mysterious companies, aka China, to buy large amounts of land in our country, which you would think would be at the top of the list of illegal activities or activities that you would consider treason, right? Which thus should get every person in Congress thrown out of Congress for putting our national security at risk. But the reality of the matter is the people in charge of our country, Republicans and liberals, are really the ones who were responsible for destroying our country on purpose, thus taking away any security we have. We know that they're doing this by design. And this story, and you have to listen to this video, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that this is even acceptable as an answer. But a mystery company, so somehow there's a mystery company who bought $800 million worth of land near Travis Air Force Base, as you'll hear in the video clip, but nobody knows who the company is. Does that make sense, right? Oh, right. Don't you have to give your information out when you buy land, or, you know what I mean? Like when you buy a home, I'm pretty sure they have to have your information. You can't buy it in the name of John Doe, okay? You can't go and say, hey, I want to buy this house. What's your name? You can't say Jack and the Beanstalk is your name. You pretty much have to provide identification. Now, we know exactly what's going on here, but there's a lot of key elements in this story about the size of this. For starters, this is 55,000 acres, okay? It is the equivalent of 2 San Franciscos. Nobody seems concerned, though. It's also right by a military base. Nobody seems concerned, though. They say it could be used for agriculture and farming. We know that's not going to happen. And then, of course, the other thing to keep in mind is that it's by an electrical grid, a very important electrical grid, right? So haven't we heard these stories before about China buying land near military bases by electrical grids? There can't be a sabotage coming, could there? Listen to this story, and even this is what drives everybody, it should drive everyone nuts. Listen to these politicians who can't seem to give us any answers as to how this is allowed, or even who the mystery company is who's buying the land. I mean, give me an utter break.
Land now, nearly $1 billion in land purchases by a mystery company near a California Air Force base is raising national security concerns. The firm, called Flannery Associates, has invested more than $800 million in real estate surrounding the Travis Air Force Base. And in fact, the company has been aggressively ramping up its acquisitions since the beginning of this year. And now lawmakers want to know who's behind this and why they're snatching up so much property. Emily Finn is here with those details. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Marky, right now, 3 sides of California's Travis Air Force Base are owned by Flannery Associates, but the group's intentions for grabbing the land near this base are leaving the federal government and lawmakers puzzled. And some on Capitol Hill are not ruling out the possibility that this group could have ties to foreign enemies. The Air Force's Foreign Investment Risk Review Office is investigating Flannery Associates, a group of landowners who have purchased almost 52,000 acres near the Travis Air Force Base in California. According to the Wall Street Journal, questions about their intentions with the land are raising concerns. Legal representation for Flannery says the group is controlled by U.S. citizens, with 97% of its capital coming from U.S. investors. But even after 8 months of investigating, federal officials say they can't confirm or deny Flannery's assertions to be true, and still have not been able to determine exactly who is backing Flannery. California Congressman John Garamendi says there are reasons to be concerned Flannery may have ties to China or other foreign enemies. Flannery Associates sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, one of the many federal agencies probing the land purchases, saying no foreign person of the group holds any significant interest of substantial control over Flannery, but concerns like this aren't just happening in California. Last year, 300 acres of farmland were purchased near the Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota by Chinese-owned Fufeng, a deal raising red flags about potential spying. After pushback from the local community, the city council ultimately voted to end the project, citing national security risks. Grand Forks residents saying they've heard from people in other parts of the U.S. dealing with similar concerns.
We've heard from people in Arizona and Florida and Texas, how are you doing this? And my advice is saying you have to be a voice. You have to have the courage to step forward.
And in Green Charter Township, Michigan, an agreement to build an electric vehicle battery plant from Chinese-owned Goshen is currently delayed following pushback from locals. The plant would be located near Camp Grayling, where the U.S. is training the Taiwanese military. News Nation was at a protest against the project earlier this year.
You don't have to connect too many dots to see the connection to the Chinese government and the Chinese connection with that. I've been looking at, I see spy balloons, okay? We see TikTok under investigation. We see Xi Jinping meeting with Putin.
But now literally 3 sides of that base is totally controlled by the Flannery Group. Nobody knew who they were. Who are these people? Where did they get the money that they can pay 5 to 10 times the normal value that others would pay for this farmland?
8 months of investigation, yet
we do not know where this money's coming from.
Do you have any reason to believe China is tied to this group?
I have reason to be concerned.
Garamendi says an attorney representing Flannery Associates indicated the firm is made up of a group of families, 97% of whom are allegedly American, looking to diversify their portfolio from equities to real assets, including agricultural land. But the congressman is skeptical.
Well, we have heard scheme after scheme. That makes no sense at all. We're going to build a deep water port. Really? Around Travis Air Force Base, which is 10 miles from the bay? We're going to farm. Well, at that price, you're going to lose a lot of money farming. We're going to build a city. No, you're not going to build a city here for all kinds of reasons. So none of the reasons why the land is being acquired make any sense at all.
What do you think is happening?
I don't know.
According to Garamendi, Flannery Associates has also acquired land around the interstate electrical grid system, all the way from the Columbia River into central California. This includes land that houses wind turbines that provide significant power into Northern California.
It's the secrecy here. What's going on? If you're not a nefarious operation, why are you keeping it secret?
So mystery people, mystery groups can just go about, apparently, buy land by putting us, at risk, by putting it near military bases, right? And then the other thing to note and keep in mind with this story is there's a very good possibility that this could be testing grounds for smart cities, because we know that it's probably easier for them to buy land and then build their smart cities as opposed to taking cities that are already in place, which we see by design. They're trying to destroy all these cities from San Francisco to LA to New York. People said it's so unbearable to live there now. Well, this is done by design, right? What do you think they want to do? Take a bulldozer to the entire city? Well, they would like to, but it's probably easier for them to create new cities, magical cities, right? These will be cities where there's no mean people and no hate is allowed. And there'll be a camera on every corner. Oh, right, there already are. But there'll be a camera everywhere. Everything will be run by 5 to 6G technology. And of course, everything will be, hell on earth. So can anybody explain to me what these people in Congress actually do? I saw a clip last week. I try not to check out any of the stuff going on in Congress, but you have to check it out because you have to see what they're trying to say, what they're trying to do. And it just continues to be this never-ending circle where they come out and they're talking about impeaching Biden and Hunter Biden and all this stuff that they want out there. Nothing gets resolved. And they literally were holding up pictures of this guy with escorts with no clothing on. And this is our Congress, right? Meanwhile, mystery companies are buying let's just call it $1 billion worth of land. And we're not supposed to be suspicious about it. Why? Why wouldn't we be? Oh, well, it's probably just some company. Maybe they're building a factory. No, that's a lot of land. It's the size of 2 cities. Has anybody ever seen a factory the size of San Francisco, let alone the size of 2 San Franciscos? Are you joking me? Right. But I'm sure by design, of course, this, coincidentally, being right next to the electrical grid as they're telling us more and more about how we need to turn off our electricity, all those things, like I've always said, starting in China and then They facilitate around the world and eventually comes here to America, which for them is the hardest country to bring to its knees, because not that we're smarter here in America, because clearly that's not the case with many Americans, but we have a lot more rights in our country still to this day than other countries do, such as the right to bear arms, right? But they're doing everything in their power to make sure that people like us, like-minded people, aren't able to communicate with each other. Hence, they destroy pretty much any means of online communicating between all of us, right? They constantly destroy YouTube channels. They take down your Facebook stuff, right? It's not just about getting the truth out. It's also for them. They're worried that groups are going to form of people who are not going to put up with, our government telling us that we can't have fireplaces in our home because it's going to emit too much carbon while they fly around in their private jets and do all these things that they, tell us to do and then don't do. And they do it by design. They're not tone deaf. They're aware that people see them in their private jets. They're aware that when they tell you to wear a mask and then they're out in public, they don't wear them. They know people are taking pictures and they don't care. That's how egotistical and sick these people are. So you would think, right, there'd be some type of rules in place, in a country that would prevent mystery companies from buying up that much land, especially since it's pretty obvious this mystery company is really a mystery country, but none of it's really a mystery, right? Now, they've been letting us know, and this is not a mainstream story. This is just a local story out of San Francisco Bay. This isn't on the news at night, but we've heard in the past they've brought it up, and they're like, oh, interesting. Why is China buying our farmland? Hey, can men have kids? Can men actually deliver and get pregnant? Tonight at 11, we'll talk about that. Not about, China buying up our land. Nobody's suspicious. Nobody's concerned that our government has sold us out to another country. The country that has enslaved its people to a degree that it is so insane over there. I often just wonder when I hear these absolute buffoons talking about how they're communists. They want to be communists. They love communism because they think in their head it has something to do with equal pay and, everybody having a say in something. They're so stupid. That's why they target those people, of course. And they don't realize what life in China is like. And I'm not just talking about monitoring. I'm not just talking about how the government can freeze your bank account, like some of the videos you've seen me show over the years, or how, you can't fly from here to there if you get on the government's bad side, which would mean questioning anything the government would tell you, right? Or even during lockdowns that occurred, you might remember those videos where people were locked inside of their apartments, literally, right? We hear lockdowns here and we're like, well, whatever, I'm going to still go out and do what I want. Well, in that country, they had armed guards outside their apartment doors, excuse me. Yeah, and you know what ended up happening? The building caught fire and people died. And no one's liable, no one's responsible. The government didn't even blink because they don't look at their citizens as humans. And guess who else doesn't look at their citizens as humans? Our government, right? So all these things we could think about what they're doing with the farmland. Of course, we know Bill Gates owns all this farmland, which should be enough to frighten anybody, but somehow there's still a small group of people who actually trust and like Bill Gates, believe it or not. Pretty insane if you think about it. And the other thing to note is the fact that this is near a large electrical grid. Remember, there's not that many electrical grids in this country as far as being able to take our whole country down and put it in a permanent blackout. Now, what makes me just pull my hair out is the fact that our own government is telling us that the electrical grid is in bad shape. Our own government is telling us that we need to get rid of dishwashers, gas stoves, refrigerators, air conditioners, all things that we live with. We have to get rid of these things because we're bad people for having it. They don't have to get rid of it, of course. So when you hear those things and then you see that a mystery company is buying land right by a power grid, well, it just gives you the whole boogeyman narrative again. We don't know who the mystery company is. And a mystery company, well, we're America. You should be allowed to buy the land in America, even if you're Chinese or some other country, right? Oh, what's next? You can tell us that the Taliban bought it and that's okay for them to buy land in America? And these people will be like, yeah, why not? They're people too, right? They have no idea what national security is. They have no idea. Most of these people have no idea about anything that's actually going on. They are so dumbed down to a point where you have to wonder if they can even tie their shoes without somebody assisting them. Sooner or later, the Alexa will probably learn how to do that for them. because these people can't think critically on their own. So when they see something like this, they can't even fathom how much land that is, that it's the size of 2 cities. So what do you think they're trying to do? Think about how big of a deal it is when a state puts in a sports stadium for a new football team, right? Oh, they're putting in a new stadium, right? The Cowboys have that massive stadium. Do you know like how massive that is? And it's nowhere near the size of a city. We're talking about enough land to make 2 cities. Now, the smart city is also something we could keep in mind. But you know what else is something I'm keeping in mind when I see this? A giant FEMA camp, which pretty much is what a smart city is. I mean, it's an imprisonment city that you can't escape. I wouldn't be surprised if they just build a giant FEMA camp there. Everything about these stories that are coming out over and over again about specifically how they're by military bases, by power grids, all it's doing is telling us to be prepared for when all this stuff goes down, because we'll be able to blame a boogeyman. They don't want you to blame the politicians in power. They want you to blame other countries because you can't get there. What are you going to do? Go to China and fight the president over there? Of course not. What are you going to do? Go fight Putin in a steel cage? I mean, of course not, right? So as long as they can point at all these big bad boogeymen, they can continually sabotage our country and blame it on the boogeyman. And that's what they're doing by allowing things like this to happen. This, to me, would be the definition of treason. If you're still listening to the video at this point, please make sure you subscribe to my other channels below. One more strike and there's always a chance I will not be able to upload for 14 days, and then another one, the channel will be gone, which, well, yeah, I mean, I'm a new YouTuber, but I hear that it happens all the time to YouTubers. They just have their channels deleted every month. So make sure you sub to those channels now. If you didn't, I thank everyone for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you and your families.